Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we will continue our discussion today of the first word.
Probably the second page of the first word. Like you can.
Okay. So this first word thus far has been on understanding the meaning of Bismillah, in the name of God, and what it means for us in our day-to-day lives, and how it can become a source, as the text says, of inexhaustible strength and unending source of bounty in our lives. And we discussed this to some extent.
I think we start.
We were.
Same way.
Yeah, we discussed the first page more or less. We discussed the sort of example or the story that Imam Nursi gives of two individuals who traveled through the desert, one taking the name of the tribal chief and the other not. And we also talked to a certain extent about how this story is analogous to our lives and how our world is a desert. Whether we need to take the name of a pre-eternal ruler, and if we do, what sort of transformation does it make in our lives? How does it change the way we approach ourselves, approach our experiences, our struggles, our enjoyments, and so on? So let's maybe, what should we do? We can maybe read up to a certain point, and then we'll take it from there. So let me see, any volunteers online or in person who wants to read? If not, yeah, Atik, you want to read? Okay, so let's begin from at the beginning, we said.
Sure.
And we can end around right before the question.
Sure. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Does he have a mic? Okay.
At the beginning, we said that all beings say in the name of God through the tongue of disposition. Is that so? Indeed, it is so. If you were to see that a single person had come and had driven all the inhabitants of a town to a place by force and compelled them to work, you would be certain that he had not acted in his own name and through his own power, but was a soldier acting in the name of the government and relying on the power of the king. In the same way, all things act in the name of Almighty God. For minute things like seeds and grains bear huge trees on their heads. They raise loads like mountains. That means all trees say in the name of God, fill their hands from the treasury of mercy and offer them to us. All gardens say in the name of God and become cauldrons from the kitchens of divine power in which are cooked numerous varieties of different foods. All blessed animals like cows, camels, sheep, and goats say in the name of God and produce springs of milk from the abundance of mercy, offering us a most delicate and pure food like the water of life in the name of the provider. The roots and rootlets, soft as silk, of plants, trees, and grasses say in the name of God and pierce and pass through hard rock and earth. Mentioning the name of God, the name of the most merciful, everything becomes subjected to them. The roots spreading through hard rock and earth and producing fruits as easily as the branches spread through the air and produce fruits, and the delicate green leaves retaining their moisture for months in the face of extreme heat. Deal a slap in the mouths of naturalists and jab a finger into their blind eyes, saying even heat and hardness, in which you most trust are under a command, for like the staff of Moses, each of those silken rootlets conform to the command of. And we said, O Moses, strike the rock with your staff. Quran, Baqarah, verse 60. And split the rock, and the delicate leaves, fine as cigarette paper, recite the verse. O fire, be coolness and peace against the heat of the fire, each like the members of Abraham, upon him be peace. And there's a footnote again. Quran, Surah 21, verse 69. Since all things say in the name of God and bearing God's bounties in God's name, give them to us. We too should say in the name of God. We should give in the name of God and take in the name of God, and we should not take from heedless people who neglect to give in God's name.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you for reading that. So I guess there's a number of questions here for us. I mean, one of them is the author is outlining all these ways in which we can bear witness to the recitation of or even embodiment of Bismillah, right? From the trees to the foods that we eat, to the ways in which what we derive from animals, flowers, silk, right? All these sorts of things that we existent beings that we can experience in the world. So the first question that we face is, do we witness this ourselves? The second question here that he does address is, when I witness this, what does this offer me? How does this change my experience or my sort of state of being? Is the second question. And, you know, when he says, for example, the trees, all trees say in the name of God, fill their hands from the treasury of mercy. All gardens say in the name of God, become cauldrons from the kitchens of divine power. So there's this, I guess, in terms of the second question, he's saying that when I see something, let's say a tree, when I read it in the name of my creator, then I end up entering into a relation with that creator, who is the source of this mercy being manifested, who is the source of this power being manifested. And I become an active recipient of that mercy, of that power as well. I enter into a sort of personal, intimate relation with that creator. That name that is being manifested ends up changing my experience of the world. And like, so in one of the sort of discussion sections that I lead in my institution, we had a discussion of the concept of creation out of nothing, or, you know, what they call creation ex nihilo, right? And what it means. And one of the issues that comes up when talking about something like that is causality. And so I had asked students, and I have two different sections, and both sections I asked, you know, it's cloudy outside. When you see this cloudiness, what do you see as the cause of that cloudiness? And very understandably so, both students on different occasions said, very literally, natural processes. Like, this is it, you know? And towards the end of the discussion, we were talking about, like, a student did ask, like, okay, like, what is the sort of impact of even believing in creation out of nothing, or what sort of impact does it have on me? And for me, the impact is extremely apparent in that, not just of that, but of seeing things either in the name of God as being created and as performing whatever duties that they're endowed in the name of God, versus not seeing it in the name of God, which is that in one, you have arbitrary, random processes in which there is no relation of mercy, relation of compassion that I can enter there. There's nothing there for me in terms of how that experience can offer a sense of security or contentment in any other aspect of my life. And so, you know, one thing that grabbed my attention in this paragraph is that these things, mentioning the name of God, the name of the most merciful, everything becomes subject to them. But as I read them in the name of God, I also like that the name that is being manifested there becomes a very real manifestation in all aspects of my life as well. Like when we came here today, we parked and we were walking over. Suddenly we saw 3 cherry blossom trees, and I was shocked because it seems very early for them in one respect. But I could just approach them as cherry blossom trees that have some sort of beauty that belongs to them, that's in their own name. But when I see them as beauty that is being created in the name of God, then I say the one who is beautifying these trees in this dirty city will be the one that beautifies my life in the places I don't expect it to, in at the time that I don't expect it to. So those are just some thoughts from my end. But yeah, I guess in terms of those 2 questions that I first mentioned of, do we witness things acting in the name of God, like the things that it mentions, like when I see a tree, do I witness that? If not, why or why not? And how does that sort of impact my experience of it? We can open the floor. Yeah.
Oh, mashallah, such a beautiful question. I like to start exploring the second part. So assume we do believe, or we do witness, or we don't. Let's say whether we witness or not, how it would even affect my life. And when I read this sentence, for instance, it says, in the same way all things act in the name of Almighty God, for minute things like seeds and grains bear huge trees on their heads. There's this contrast. There's this, the need and then sustenance in this sentence, right? There's this achievement in one sense, not in the sense that, we use it in our society, that I achieve something, I work hard. But it's just, there's a source of pleasure there, like being happy for it. Like when you are giving, for instance, when I give her, my daughter, a gift, she's happy with it. She may find a chocolate, for instance, on top of the table. Sometimes she wouldn't even care. Like sometimes she eats, sometimes she does not. But every time I come home from office, there's, our routine. If I go to office, she waits until I come. I know her. And every time she opens door, I gave her chocolate. And she's the happy moment for her. So it's not about the chocolate, because she has chocolate, right? I mean, it's not that it's so expensive, she doesn't have access and so on. At home, like every drawer you open, you will find one way or another a type of chocolate, right? My wife, she likes it. But anyway, it's not about the chocolate, obviously. And the chocolate I gave, it's like a very small one. Like that's a big, very small. And like it's not even any special. It's just milk chocolate with nothing. But she's so happy because, there's this exchange between us, that her father cares about her and so on and so forth. So if you take out this relationship out of the equation, if it is just chocolate at the end, it's not a source of happiness for her. Like you are taking away a huge thing from her life. I guess the same way, if you just see it as just seed and then the tree, a natural process, there's nothing to celebrate there. Yeah. There's nothing to be happy about it. And, this minute seed and the huge tree, this contrast, it's like security for seed. It means it doesn't matter how small you are. The one behind you can put this huge tree on top of you and you will carry it. Not because you can carry it, but because he will make you carry it. So the seed has this sense of security now. He feels, or it feels secure. The same way, my daughter likes this exchange because she feels secure. Iman, right? So if there are these natural processes and so on and so forth, there is no security. But if somebody taking care of me, if somebody sending me this, the clouds, the rain, and so on, there's the relationship, as you said, the love, mercy, everything is there, and I feel secure. Because this rain is in the control of the one of whose hand everything's controlled. Such a big security for me. So I think it changes a lot. Like it's like black and white.
Yeah. It's two ends of the spectrum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As we've been studying this Surah Layl, we're studying Surah Layl. Layl. It's like, the two opposites. You either confirm the truth, or you just tell lie about the truth. It is either saddaqa or kazzaba. That's difference, I guess.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair.
So today we were talking about why gambling is prohibited in Islam.
Because you wanted to,
Gamble. So there's this notion of chance involved, and what is chance? So chance is as if things happen by themselves. So there's this chaos, and since I cannot, I'm assuming there's this random, normal, whatever distribution that's happening in there, and I'm calculating a chance out of that. What is it? How it can happen? Does chance happen really? What does it imply? To believe in chance, what does it imply? That means either it's total chaos, or everybody is acting on their own accord, and since it's disorganized, you cannot really know how they're going to intersect with each other, what would be the outcome. So I am lucky, you say, for example, if Abdurrahman is strong, Birkan is strong, me and Atik, we are weak, and one of us going to survive in that room. If
one?
Yeah. If I and Atik start the fight, and then at the end, our winner is beaten by Birkan, but since Birkan is now tired, then Abdurrahman is going to win. So he's lucky. But if I am lucky, initially Birkan and Abdurrahman will start fighting. So Abdurrahman will get tired, Birkan is beaten. And then Atik is going to attack Abdurrahman, and I'm just waiting.
It's a complex chess.
So at the end, I would say I am lucky. Why? So as if this is the idea. All these are happening by themselves. And I'm just at the right place at the right time. Like, this is how I am looking at the existence. But is this really the case? Do I observe this sort of a disorganized chaos? Like when I look at my body, for example. Or do I see a perfect order, which is, as the author is saying, that it looks like they are not acting on their own accord? Because chance, the idea of chance, is coming with this notion of things happen by themselves or randomly, there's this chaos. So this is why everything acting in the name of the Creator, if this is the case, and the author is giving evidence for why it should be like that, then if everything is being done by him in his name, within his knowledge, like Nadani Ibn as Quran says, it must be so much so that every single leaf that falls falls with his knowledge, no room for chance, then the security that Brother Birkan was mentioning, because what shall I be worried about now? Because everything is within order, everything is under control. Then such a comfortable life for me to live.
Yeah. And I think, the more, so for example, Brother Birkan mentioned the seed and the grain, right, that bears huge trees on their heads. I think the more I witness this intentionality in creation, let's say, as opposed to chance, the more I witness how Bismillah is manifested or exemplified through creation, the more then I can start to witness how it is in fact being manifested through my life as well, right? Because like seeds, we find ourselves with huge burdens to bear, right? And when I expect that I have to bear those burdens, it becomes a source of despair for me. Or, I do a task one time, someone says, this is great, good job, but then now I have to do all the other ones. It becomes a burden I can't bear. But when I recognize that just as the seed is carrying a tree only by virtue of the fact that it is in the name of God, then I start to recognize that my successes are in fact being created in His name rather than my name. And that the things that I feel squashed by, littled by in one sense or another, I don't have to worry about that. There I find security. There I find a sense of ease, because it will be not in my name, which is completely needy and faulty, I find, right? Which is why I find myself in such anxious states to begin with, because I know all my limitations, I know all my shortcomings, and because of those shortcomings and faults, it breeds anxiety in me. How am I going to overcome this, given this very obvious situation? But when I recognize that it will be done, it will be accomplished, it can only be accomplished in the name of God, then I am eased of that burden. And so again, what I was just trying to highlight is that the more I witness it in creation, the more I think it becomes possible for me to start to witness how this is the reality of my life as well. Any other thoughts on this passage? Yeah, Brother Rikon.
So whether we observe or not, such a thing that everything by tongue of disposition through their, the state, say Bismillah, act in the name of God. I think this is another way to say like Tawheed, oneness. Because if things can act in the name of other things, like themselves and so on, then we cannot talk about Tawheed anymore. Tawheed means everything acts in the name of God. Like one definition, at least. And so this is kind of tangential, but I really, I was recently, thinking about that, listening about that. So when we think about, this, the period of Jahiliyyah, before the Prophet, ﷺ, before his prophethood, because of the term Jahiliyyah, we usually take it as these people are illiterate, right? I mean, yes, most of them were illiterate, but it was not any different with Muslims as well. So it's not about being literate or not. And the person that we call as Abu Jahl, right, the father of ignorance, we usually think that he's also, the illiterate that doesn't know anything and so on and so forth. He's among the most educated ones, right? He has, very notable status and so on and so forth. And the most important, maybe most interesting thing about him, he's religious. He's very devoted religious, actually. He spent time, serving the Hajj, pilgrims. He's taking care of them and so on and so forth. He used to believe in God, Allah. But he also used to believe in other things as well. That's the reason we call them not, kafir or kafirun, but mushrikun, we say. Mushrik. The ones who, attribute other things, like attribute things to the other sources other than, Allah. They used to believe in Allah, right? But that was not enough. They also used to believe in these idols. And when we think about it, it's not any different. Like I apologize first and foremost, like for myself and everybody else, if this sounds offensive and, if I'm offending someone or if I'm, blaming someone. But it is not any different than believing in Allah, but at the same time believing in these natural processes creating things. This is the jahiliyyah we have. And very ironic, like the people who believe in such things most are the ones who have the most education. The more we get educated, unfortunately, like I'm not suggesting, we should stop education for sure. But like there is an irony there. There is, maybe more than an irony. There's a signal for all of us. It says something. More we get educated, again, I apologize for using this term, but I'm using it for myself. May Allah forgive me, but more I get educated, the more mushrik I have, let's put it that way. I have danger to become. So we should really check ourselves and ask this question. Like we're reading this, the passage, everything, acts in the name of God. And we say, oh, yes, alhamdulillah, everything says Bismillah. Or we say, this author is just, speaking poetry. But this is so important. This is like tawheed. This is the definition of tawheed. If I don't see that everything, with no exception, kullu shayin, is under his control, that acting in his name, then my tawheed, understanding of tawheed is shaking. This is so important. It's like a life and death matter. It's not even like, being a Muslim, but not, that much and so on. It's the danger is being one of these people who lived before the prophethood. So that's the danger. That's the comparison. It's a big matter.
Jazakallah khair. Yeah, because at the end of the day, either I attribute the qualities that I observe, let's say even not necessarily mercy or compassion, but power. Like I see power. Someone can see power just as I see power, even if they might not see mercy as I see mercy. They can see, like they can experience awe when looking at a mountain or experiencing an earthquake, right? Either I divide, I kind of a lot, different portions, different fractions of these qualities to various different things. A few to God, and then a few to the things themselves, or I attribute it all to one source, right? Which is belief in Tawheed. And again, that's the same thing, very much the same thing that I do in my life. Like, either I will divide up certain things and say, well, I accomplished this and that, and then God does, this and that. Like today I was talking to someone, and, we were like, I mentioned something along the lines of like, oh, like if in this certain discussion or conversation, like there's anything good, that it's being created by God. And they were saying, oh, don't sell yourself too short. I said, no, I'm not selling myself too short. But that is the tendency that we have, right? Of saying, well, there's we can portion out something for you, something for myself, and then also thank God in the process. And I can experience the guidance that is given through both routes very easily, because one takes me to, again, a state of anxiety and despair, and the other one takes me to a state of contentment and complete security in my life. Yes, please.
It's not relevant to your point, but
That's fine, please go on.
I mean, it's relevant in the sense of just, but the second paragraph we read, indeed it is so, if you were to see that a single person had come and had driven all the inhabitants of a town to a place by force and compelled them to work, you would be certain that he had not acted in his own name and through his own power, but was a soldier acting in the name of the government and relying on the power of the king. Speaking of Jahiliyyah, and I don't know if Nursi is implying this or making this reference, but I was thinking this seems to almost be describing the Prophet, in the sense of someone who came with a message, and before I saw everything was in disarray, everything was in chaos, everything was doing whatever it wanted by itself. And then with the message he brought, or through his message, everything became servants, or everything got in line and was following actually a command in the name of God. And he was not doing this in his own name, like the Prophet was not bringing them to order in his own name, but through Bismillah, like the name of God, like through the message. So I just like made that connection in my mind. I wanted to share that, and the beauty of like really the message that he brought and how it saves us. Like it's really, I don't know how other people do in their life, but it's literally a matter of life and death. I think there's no way, like, we're talking about bandits and the desert and Arabia. I would go on further and say these are not just like normal bandits. These are like bandits that know exactly where to hit me. Like they know my weak points, and they come and they put a blade right through it. If they like hit me on the leg, it might be fine. But then no, they come at exactly the points that it hurts the most. They come and put the blade right through there. So it's like, if I see them as bandits, if I only see them as enemies, then it's just like, this is hell. So it's really a matter of life and death, that I can instead be like, oh, in the name of God, you were sent. This event was sent to me, and you are telling me a message. You're bringing me a message. You're saying something or reminding me of something. Like if it's sickness, you're reminding me of my neediness, of how I'm being taken care of. If it's a headache, or if it's some other event in my life, like it's a reminder.
And just one thing, like even in this example that it gives here of roots and rootlets, soft as silk, right? Then, and maybe this is an example that we're familiar with, but just kind of thinking about it again, I think is always a useful reminder that these roots that are soft as silk can penetrate through these hard rocks, hard boulders, right? And this matches precisely with the what Imam Nursi wanted to, what he said he wanted to demonstrate in the beginning, which is that how is Bismillah a source of inexhaustible power or strength, right? And that, I find myself very much again in this needy, feeble situation in my life, but that through acting in his name, the boulders, the rocks, the hardness, the harshness, the obstacles that I experience become very easily overcomable, let's say. But Brother Yusuf, you wanted to say something.
So I don't know if you discussed this previous week, but can you elaborate a little more on one of those examples? How goats, camels, sheep say, in the name of Creator, produce springs of milk from abundance of mercy, offering us a most delicate and pure food like water of life in the name of the Provider. Like, this is a simple biological process in which cells are producing this white liquid. Like, why is he making a big fuss about it and saying that, oh no, they say in the name of the Creator? I mean, how is this similar with the example that he gave above? Like, yeah, in the paragraph that he gave above, it's clear, yes, that person is acting in the name of the ruler and whatnot, because as a single person, he really migrated a large city and whatnot. So yes, like the example makes sense. But in what sense is this example applying to goats? Because a goat is a single goat. Not even the goat, just the cell of a goat is producing a certain liquid. So where is Bismillah here? If you discussed this previous week, you can skip.
No, we haven't. We stop here.
Okay. I mean, how is it? Is he just, as Brother Birkam was saying, speaking religiously, poetically, or what is going on here? Isn't it natural that cells produce? I mean, it's just a white liquid, isn't it?
Would anyone like to respond? I mean, this seems like a question that you would be best apt to answer, Brother Yusuf. Others can.
I was planning to answer, but because you said you can answer best, I have.
I mean, what can I say? You can be second best.
I have to give.
Khazali, this sort of thing is his. It's his kind of trademark.
I was really serious. I asked. Okay, go ahead.
In the name of God, one of you.
Because now you said in the name of God, I have to. So the way I see is it's again about the opposites. He says like a silky rootlets and then hard rocks, or leaves as fine as the cigarette paper. I'm sure people here wouldn't know the details of like why he says cigarette paper. The cigarette paper is so like a thin. If you had any chance to look at the cigarette paper, the way like the paper they made the cigarette, it's extremely thin. It's like the.
Personally,
Uh,
probably his father used to roll it. It's not like
No.
you buy it already rolled, like the professionals roll it.
I didn't have close relatives, but I know it. Like
It's a universal knowledge, and
yeah. It's like I know about the aliens. I never seen any.
They're here, man.
So, but anyway, it's like it is so thin that you have to be really careful holding it, right? And then heat of fire being strong against something like heat. So it's all about the opposites. And what I mean with that, so when we look at the milk, for instance, I guess the question is, what is the milk? Like, what is milk that we see in front of us? Yusuf thinks, because he's educated, Yusuf thinks it's just a white liquid. He can give you the chemical compounds and so on, everything inside. But one thing, or many things actually, makes milk is the things other than these features that we see. The milk is a nourishing liquid. The milk is tasty liquid. the milk is, this soft liquid. The milk is a liquid that can be digested by our body. It's not produced by our body, but it can be digested by our body. The milk is something that I need. The milk is something when I drink, feel good about it. The milk is something when I see that I have in my home, I feel secure about it because my daughter needs it, right? Not now, maybe, but used to. Or I need it. The milk is something, I value a lot. All these things, all these qualities is there with the milk. So, but at the same time, when we look at the cell itself, none of them are there. None of them is there, right? Is there? Yeah. None of them there. Cheating. So there's these opposites. Like on one hand, we have this cell or the animal. Like we don't have to be smarty and talk about the cells and so on. Just look at the animal. If you can explain with the animal, explain with the animal. When I look at this animal, I don't see any of these qualities. At least I don't see anything which, purposefully have these qualities because, he cares about me or something. I don't see it. It's just silky rootless or cigarette paper-like leaf. On one hand, I see. But on the other hand, I see all these qualities. So there's a mismatch there. Hence, I cannot, just call it a natural process or something natural and then live with it. I cannot do that. There's a huge imbalance there. On one hand, I see the poorest person. On the other hand, I see all these purchases made. So when I say, I cannot call this natural, I'm sorry. So there must be something that I can attribute all these qualities to. So if you ignore all these qualities, you can name it as you wish. If you just say it's a white liquid, yeah, maybe, this cell can produce it, maybe. But even there, even if I look at the qualities, like the physical qualities, for instance, I will realize there's also a mismatch there too. So it's not only this, the psychological qualities. So, yeah, well.
Was that satisfactory, Brother Yusuf?
Alhamdulillah.
I have a question for you to take it a bit further. Because like when I think of a sheep and a cow and milk, when I think of like even maybe a tree, it's a bit easier. I'll say easier, not like easy, to see the name of God or the manifestation of those qualities speaking. Is it possible for me to then look at a building or something I'm more familiar with? Let me look at a program that's running. It's thousands of lines of code, let's say. Is that saying Bismillah? Is that included in this? Everything is saying Bismillah in the tongue of its disposition. Does that include the works of many engineers coming together and writing something? Because there, everyone has their own claim over it. In fact, you could see line by line who wrote what. It's a very strong history of it. Like, should I be able to see Bismillah there as well?
So, let me cheat a little bit. And let's say Brother Birkan made a speech. He explained something. And then you said, oh, I am enlightened, right?
I also dropped the mic and then...
Yes. So like it is like writing a code. He made a speech. This is why I use that example. So he's speaking. So he put some words in there. And you being on the other end, now you are reading the code and processing sort of. and then an enlightenment happens on your end, right? So some outcome, it start playing some music. Like if you would like to go with the computer analogy, somebody has written the code is being processed on a CPU, and it's playing some MP3 file, something like this. Let's go with this one, then you can apply it to the code, right? So he made a explanation. You listen to explanation, some problems got solved, and you get enlightened. So looking at this interaction, would you say that this happened in the name of Allah or not, right? Then we need to ask the question, what's the outcome? The outcome is creation of guidance in human. And the apparent source is a person's words coming out of a person's mouth. So is the words coming out of mouth the source of guidance in you? Like, is the words create the guidance in you? And you could say, well, creation of guidance is way beyond, because Brother Birkan's capability, he just put some words together maybe, but the creation of guidance is a totally different thing, because the one who creates this creation meaningfully is the one who can make me realize that purpose and meaning in there, which is not Brother Birkan. But things happened with his words, apparently. So you would say, actually, that guidance being created in me, so Brother Birkan was doing in the name of Allah. If I read him speaking in the name of Allah, then I can only then explain guidance being created in me. Otherwise, I don't see any causal relationship between him speaking and me getting enlightened. So we can apply the same thing to anything in this regard, because we feel like we take it for granted when it comes to a code or program and whatnot. We say, oh, transistors, electricity go this way and that way. Things get a lot muddy because most of the time maybe we are not even aware of that level of how computers are working. But we tend to see that, oh, it just happens. But this is actually the same thing is happening at that level. But since the processes are much more complicated in there, we tend to get lost when it comes to, let's say, computers and whatnot. And we said, well, it happens as if it's just happening by itself. But the same logic, this is why the author is giving those examples. Actually, those examples are not author's examples. This is examples from Quran. So I was looking at which verse he is getting his inspiration from. This is Surah An-Nahl, chapter number 16, verse number 66. وَإِنَّ لَكُمْ فِي الْأَنْعَامِ لَعِبْرَةً نُسْقِيكُم مِّمَّا فِي بُطُونِهِ مِن بَيْنِ فَرْثٍ وَدَمٍ لَبَنًا خَالِصًا سَائِغًا لِلشَّارِبِينَ. This is the verse. Translation is, and verily in cattle will you find an example, a lesson for you from what is within their bodies between excretions and blood. We produce for your drink milk, pure and agreeable to those who drink it. And this is very much pointing to the points that Brother Birkan highlighted. It's like the contrast, first of all, it's coming from within this dirt and blood. A white, pure milk is coming out. But it's not only that, this is, you drink it for you. So as if whomever prepares this gives this appetite and joy for you as well. So then you can ask the question, the one who is apparently producing it, is it aware of or able to give me this receiving pleasantness out of this, or aware of making it from this dirt, I'm going to bring out this? You're not even aware of that. I mean, forget about cattle and cow. Just I look at my wife. Like before Zainab or Ali was born, no milk was there. And she didn't choose to take milk out of there. Maybe she could have done it from her finger if it was a choice. It's going to be more convenient. I don't know, right? It's not their choice. So forget about cow. Now apply it to the cow. So it's beyond our will or power or anything. And then are we going to say that, well, it's by chance it happens? Or only the ones that had this were able to survive, and this is how the system is working, as we were discussing a few weeks ago. So it doesn't make any sense in this regard. So this is why Quran is giving us this super simple example, because the same rule applies even if you go to the particles or if you go to the transistors in a computer, but we get lost there. That's why he says, just look at the cow, not even the cell of the cow. Just look at the cow. Same rule applies everywhere. Is this cow capable of, or show the quality, let's put it this way. Does the cow demonstrate the quality to care about you with, oh, let me prepare this super nice, cool, clean food since they like it. Because it is as if it is the what do they say? This bartender is mixing things and preparing the cocktail for you. So as if the cow is the bartender and saying that, let me prepare you the best of the drinks, and then just eating something and then working, shaking it, and then giving us the milk. It's not working like that. So, but someone who knows my taste, not only the taste in the mouth, but my needs, is preparing that, which is beyond the capacity of a cow or a camel. Therefore, somebody who knows me is doing that. So the cow is acting in the name of that one, must be acting in the name of that one. So it's a very beautiful, simple language that Quran is using. And maybe because of that, we should time to time raise our head and look at these simple examples. Yes, our day job is really computers. I mean, pretty much everybody's job is becoming computers nowadays, but still drinking milk, eating bread or honey is part of everybody's experience also. So trying to focus on this apparently mundane things might give us a much better understanding of what all these are about, because especially with this complicated matters of computer-like things, we feel like we know it well, but things are getting so complicated so fast that we are getting lost in there. Even if you're an expert of that matter, we get lost in there. So this is why I think always going back to those super simple examples works much better than those complicated examples.
And before I give it to, or just like to add one thing, I think what I understand when you say simple is these are examples of creations where, let's say, sheep giving milk, cow giving milk, where the milk comes out of doesn't seem to even claim ownership over them. So it's simpler to understand because there isn't this entity trying to steal it away and like if Brother Birkan was giving me a very amazing speech that gave me guidance. If he said, yes, this is for me, I would be lost. But if he said, no, it's not from me, it's from God, and didn't claim ownership, then I'd be like, oh, like it becomes more simple for me. So maybe when it comes to things like engineering or things people have made, since so many things are claiming ownership, millions of things in a chain, it's very hard to see.
So it's not anything crazy, but for some reason, milk from a cow, I find it to be disagreeable to my body, but milk from a camel, despite or because of how expensive it is, I find it to be more agreeable to my body. And I would say it's not really my body's choice. I don't think it's really making a conscious decision in what it finds agreeable or not to hurt me or to benefit me. And I don't think it's the cow either. So they're consciously producing something to spite me, or the camel consciously producing something to provide me nutrient. But it has to be something else, right? That's the only logical thing. There's something else going on, or some other one's instructions involved.
Jazakumullah khair. I see we have some online participants. It would be nice to hear their voices as well. and their valuable insights. Well, they can feel free to raise their hand at any point or just jump in by opening their mic. Yeah, so it continues with saying, the roots spreading through hard rock and earth and producing fruits as easily as the branches spread through the air and produce fruits, and the delicate green leaves retaining their moisture for months in the face of extreme heat, deal a slap in the mouths of naturalists and jab a finger in their blind eyes, saying even heat and hardness in which you most trust are under a command. For like the staff of Moses, each of these silken rootlets conforms the command of, and we said, O Moses, strike the rock with your staff and split the rock. So what is the relationship between things acting in the name of God and the staff of Moses?
If I was a naturalist, I would say it's just an oil, man. The plants are just giving out an oil that goes through the rock. What are you talking about?
Is that how it works?
Or an acid or something.
Yes, please. Somebody bury this denial.
Somebody to slap him in the face and shoot
Jab.
finger to his eyes, right? Okay. So author is making a very beautiful reading of Quran here. Like for example, if Moses was here and hitting his staff to a rock, and out of this rock 12 springs were to come out, we wouldn't say, well, come on, man, it's just a staff. And when you hit staff with, when you hit rocks with staff, water comes out of it. This wouldn't, I mean, we would be in awe seeing Moses doing this, because we would say, wow, when we hit rock with whatever we have in our hand, water doesn't come out. But this guy had hit it and then it came out. So there's something awkward going on in here. And the author is saying that, well, just take something as soft as a silk and like hair, for example, hit that rock and say, expect the rock to split. It doesn't split. And this is like soft versus hard. Yeah, we say, well, this is a natural phenomenon. So, well, but look at this soft silk-like rootlet. When it gets hit, it's breaking. So isn't this extraordinary? Like, again, the questioning is based on extraordinary. There's something weird going on in there in this sense, really. So, but what we are saying as well, what I have seen is, I have always seen that this silk rootlet has this, liquid around it each and every time, right before it gets, like the rock gets split, there's always this, what do they say, is it secretion?
Yeah,
Secretion out of this rootlet. And therefore, I say, again, with our causal mindset, right? Causality mindset, when there was no secretion, there were no split of the rock. When there was this secretion, there was split of the rock. Therefore, it is the secretion that makes it. This is, again, our faulty causal mindset. But instead, what the author is suggesting in here is, normally you would say hardness can break hardness, but in here, softness is breaking hardness. So which is this miraculous thing. And if you were to observe it at the hand of a man, you would call it a open, clear miracle. And actually that miracle keeps happening every day. So the miracle of Musa alayhi salam is being shown, is being demonstrated to you by the trees. That miracle keeps happening. So as Musa alayhi salam was acting on behalf of the Creator or in the name of the Creator, these trees are also acting in the name of the Creator. So it's very beautifully saying that, well, because generally the idea of miracles are, for our materialistic mindset, come on, how could
this could have happened is being the question, right? And nobody have seen it. I don't see it. How do you expect me to believe in it? So the author says, here it is. Just look at the trees. Don't you see that the trees are splitting the rock like Moses did? Or Moses did like the trees splitting them in front of your eyes today. So how is it that this, and again, if we are now going to apply the same idea as we did for the milk, for instance, in order to break a rock with your knowledge today, what do you need to do? So it requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of things to be able to make it, for to open up tunnels, for example. Let's apply our knowledge. So for a human to make such a thing, we need that power, we need that knowledge and everything. And now we are observing this to be done by innocent, seemingly very simple rootlets. So it doesn't match. Therefore, I would say that it must be that this is beyond the capacity of that rootlet or that tree. Somebody taught it, or somebody is actually acting through that rootlet.
Just like opening a tunnel in a mountain was actually ahead of you.
Yeah.
I mean, just because you observed yourself doing it, it doesn't mean that you can do it. But am I allowed to read some? Okay, this is from Al-A'raf, Surah 7, and then I will read through the ayahs between 65 to 72, including 71, not 72. I will only read the rough translations. And onto Ad, we sent their brotherhood. He said, "O my people, worship God alone. You have no deity other than him. Will you not then be conscious of him?" So, this whatever he suggests is exactly the same thing, what is being suggested here, which is, worship God alone. Do not attribute things to, the idols beyond God. Only worship him. Wherever you see, you should see Bismillah. So this is what he suggests. Said the great ones among his people. So this phrase is used, a lot in Quran, especially when it is about, like when people reacting against the message of the Prophet, it's always the great ones in the, of the Qawm. Malaun, Nas. Said the great ones among his people who refused to acknowledge the truth. Verily, we see that you are weak-minded. Just like, you were mentioning that these are silly, like these people are silly people. They're talking about the milk cow, and they're talking about all these, the qualities, what they are talking about. Like they are uneducated people, right? They don't know anything about the, let's say, the biology. Verily, we see that you are weak-minded, and verily, we think that you are a liar. What you say is just lie. You're just playing with the words. Said Hud, "O my people, there is no weak-mindedness in me, but I am an apostle, Rasul, from sustainer of all the words." Let me see. There's all the words. Yeah, Rabbil Alamin. Okay. Rasulun min Rabbil Alamin. I am delivering on, so it's like, this Rabbil Alamin is also interesting. It's like, oh, you don't know about the biology, let me explain. And you say, I'm talking about the God who is creating the biology as well. Right? So it's not that, it's not about the level of the knowledge. It's you already appreciate that. You say, I know about the biology. I appreciate it. And from there, I see my Rabb as well. Rabbil Alameen, like all the worlds. If you want to talk about the biology, yes, sure, let's talk about the biology, but I will see my Rabb, nothing else there too. Such a, confidence. I am delivering unto you my sustainer's messages and advising you truly and well. Why do you deem it strange that a tiding from your sustainer should have come unto you through a man from among yourselves, so that he might warn you? Do but remember how he made he made you heirs to Noah's people and endowed you abundantly with power. Remember then God's blessings so that you might attain to a happy state. So this is, I guess, important in the sense that this Ad, they were very, what is the word, prosperous? Prosperous, right? They're prosperous Kavim, like the nation. They have all the power, all the material, the wealth, right? The way, Quran talks about them in Surah Fajr, inshallah, we will study it in Tuesday class soon, describes them as the people of pillars, like the huge pillars or towers. Like they have everything. They have all these, the solid works, just like, the society we live in, right?
America of the time.
Exactly. Yeah, that's I didn't want to say it clearly, but that's the analogy. They are the America, or maybe in next a few years, they're the China, right? The China of their time. Hence, the Rasul is telling them, the Hud alayhi salam is telling them, I mean, look at the wealth that you have. See the contrast. You are just ordinary people. And all these blessings. See the truth there, he says. They answered, have you come to us with the demand that we worship God alone and give up all that our forefathers were wont to worship?
The things they wanted.
Yeah, they used to worship. They keep worshiping. This is exactly the same question that we are asking here. Like, wait a second, are you suggesting me I will only think that the God is creating everything, and do you want me to stop believing that these natural processes creates as well? This is how I learned from my older professors, my forefathers. Like, I am the child, I am the the son of this academia. I am the product, I am the fruit. And do you want me to believe just God alone and, forget about everything that I was taught? Bring upon us then the punishment with which you have threatened us, if you are a man of truth. So this part, I guess, goes back to your original question, how it matters. You're just talking about all these fancy things. Just show me how it matters in my life. Like, what if I don't see Bismillah everywhere? What would happen? Just show me the punishment. Said Hud, you are already, Bisad, I don't know what Bisad is, but it's in the original, قال قد وقع عليكم, like it's already happened. It's already true for you. Kind of. You are already beset by the loathsome evil, and by your sustainer's condemnation. Do you argue with me? Okay, this part, the important part, this natural processes comes, or naturalistic ideas. Do you argue with me? Hud says, do you argue with me about the names which you have invented? So every time we, call something with a name, and we think that we explain it. What word you were saying? The secretion? Secretion, right? The brain secretes some hormones. The cow cells secrete some milk and so on and so on. You just give a name. And who says, do you argue with me about the names which you have invented, you and your forefathers? These are just empty names. How it follows is really interesting. For which God has bestowed no warrant from on high. Like, Nazalallahu makes sense. Ma Nazalallahu, it's so small, sorry. Biha min sultan. So God didn't send any authority about them, or giving any authority to them. These are just empty names you call. But with these names, you won't see any authority, you won't see any creative power. So you say, but there is Cell. So what? Does Cell has any sultan, any authority, any creative power? No, it's just another empty name. You and your fathers, for which God has bestowed no warrant from on high. Wait then. Verily, I shall wait with you. So it's really interesting. Like, we always read these ayahs as, the story is just, this terrible nation, they were worshiping the idols and so on and so forth. But what this author tries to do, actually, bringing all these ayahs to our life. So this is what Quran is talking about. Cows, milk, so on and so forth, all these nations, bring them to your life. Realize that they are about you. You are calling all these empty names and think that they explain things. You argue with them. Argue with them meaning, somebody asks you something and you throw some names, some empty names, and you think you have an argument. This is what, Hud is talking about. Thank you. That was it.
In the name of God. I will say Abdurrahman and then Brother Rikan. That's the order I saw.
Abdurrahman, of course, you have now powers to give it to someone else because it's yours now. But anyway,
I will keep it, but don't forget what you will say. I just wanted to, what was it? Inni waka fihim or something, or you are in it, or that's the translation you use, like because they're like, give us the punishment, and his response was, you are already in it. That's I feel like that's like it's like the quote in the movie is just like, oh, then you're like your hair stands up. It's like, what? I'm already in it.
Sohail says he can't hear. Is it on?
It's on.
Can you hear right now, Sohail?
Can you hear us? But if you can't hear us, you can't reply, right?
try talking again.
Hello?
Okay, yeah, it's working. It's working. Yeah.
Okay, HBZL says she can, so.
I just wanted to make one comment, so don't forget what you were saying. I was just saying, because we have this tendency, it's like, who cares if I can't see the name of God in my workplace, or if I can't see it in the things I am working in 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, just constantly looking at. It's like, I'll leave that to that side, and then I'll go and try to focus on God or stuff in my discussions I attend. But then it's like maybe I can live life that way, or I can accept it, but then I get hit. Like it says that show me the punishment of it, and I get hit by that punishment. And the reason this is important for me is like I won't be left alone in like the wrong I am. Like if I'm not living with Bismillah, I don't have a correct in the name of God perception of something, if I can't read something, if I am giving it a name and following my forefathers, and I don't see the problem of it, then I will be sent a tidal wave, or I will be sent to destruction, or I will even find myself in that destruction at that moment. And that's right there, the foremost message for me. You've always chosen to look at something this way. Maybe you're wrong. Look at it a different way. So yeah, I just wanted to.
And vice versa, right? That when I experience the ease in something, the contentment in something,
yeah,
it's like, oh, I am seeing this, that this is being created by my Rabb, by my creator. I am reading it in the name of God, and that security, that ease, that contentment becomes a sort of signposting of that.
Yeah, and the Prophet is sent to save you from this destruction you already are in, that you feel yourself in. So I guess some of it comes to like acknowledging that you're in some type of destruction.
I just want to remind Yusuf has already mentioned this, but I think it's need to be highlighted, is that author here studying all these ayahs, right? And actually teaching us how to, make tafsir of Quran. So we should also keep this in mind every time, we read this, and try to understand the approach he's using, and maybe start using it more frequently. I mean, look at these examples about the Moses striking the rock with the staff, Abraham being thrown into fire, and so on. The way he reads them, they are not just the stories. They are the things that we can witness today, right? He's reading them in such a way. He looks at the leaves and see these ayahs, the truthness of these ayahs. That Abraham was thrown into fire, and then fire didn't burn him. Yes, that was, from one perspective, a historical event. It is true. There was a miracle there. It is true. But if this ayah is narrated to me, if it is, revealed to me, then there must be another aspect of it that I can see in my life. So we should study this text in a way to learn how to, understand these ayahs of Quran.
Inshallah. Okay, I will pause for any last final comments, either from online or otherwise.
I feel like Brother Yusuf has a comment. Your tongue of disposition says
If you have any doubts, state them now. Any objections, revelations, epiphanies, inspirations. Okay, inshallah, let's end here. Let's end here. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين. جزاكم الله خير. Thank you everyone. Inshallah, we'll continue next week.